Hey, we've got Andrew with us today from Twilio. I would love to understand who Andrew is and what do you do at Twilio?
Amazing. Yeah, so I'm Andrew. I'm a developer educator at Twilio. I focus on building developer resources to help engineers and builders engage with our developer-facing APIs in a really fun and engaging way.
So, what is the difference between a developer educator and a developer advocate?
So they're kind of interchangeable. Developer advocates generally are folks that are advocating either internally or externally for a company. So making sure the voice of the developer is heard so that the folks that are building products can really make sure that the product is meeting the needs of the developer. Developer educators are more focused on creating content related to developer training. So you often see developer educators in roles like blogs, docs, and things like me creating videos.
Sure. Explain what Twilio does today, and is it all about SMS or it's more than that?
I love that question. So Twilio is programmable communications. So that could be anything from SMS to email to voice to WhatsApp to Facebook Messenger. Basically, if you can communicate, Twilio's integrated with it.
You teach developer for a living, looks like. What's the biggest mistake companies make when trying to explain their product to devs?
I think people think that developers are a monolith. Developers are unique people, and developers are honestly people first, not sort of technicians first. Meet developers where they're at as a person, and you're going to meet them where they're at as a developer, and you're going to get their trust earned, and then you're going to hopefully be able to earn their business.
Is 2026 developers still don't read or do read docs? It's a myth or truth?
I think everybody really wants to jump into building really, really fast. And often you avoid looking at the docs and you go to them afterwards. And it's kind of okay. I think developers that jump into a project, make mistakes, and then have to go to the docs to learn are really seeing the value right away and probably won't make that mistake again. But honestly, now I think agents are reading our docs more. And so really it's about preparing your agent to build something by telling it to go read the docs first. Just what you're being told, go read the docs, tell your agent to do it.
AI can now generate tutorials a lot quicker, explain APIs and write the documentation by themselves. What can a human educator do that AI cannot?
I love it. So this is the thing that we're really trying to solve at Twilio. And so in an age where you can prompt your AI agent to do anything for you, you need to give people a reason to prompt their agent. I think really what we're focused on at Twilio is creating experiences that require you to think differently and outside the box. Developers now that are using AI are more architects than anything else, and so they need to be thinking about problems. And so what we're really talented at is creating problems that allow for you to see all of the different tools you could use at Twilio or whatever company that you're involved with, and experience what it's like to build in a really fun and engaging way.
Sure. What do you think when a developer learns a new tool in 2026, where do they find actually or start reading it? Docs, YouTube course, or asking LLMs like ChatGPT?
I think everybody's starting with LLMs. I think that's just the easiest place to start now. Genuinely though, I think that LLMs are really good at reading docs right now, not so great at watching videos. So the LLM will read your docs, and the videos really provide a human face to that training experience, and often give you the ability to kind of click pause and go back to things that you might need to revisit, and actually seeing things on the screen and knowing that this was a human creating it, not necessarily an agent.
Sure. What's a piece of educational content you made that massively outperformed, and why do you think it worked?
That's a great question. I think that live coding content, maybe less so now, but there was a time period during sort of like the early 2020s where live code streaming was incredibly impactful. And I think it's because it was low lift for the content creation, but also a low barrier to entry. Somebody was coming in and watching you do something in real time, and whether that was being successful or failing, it's kind of great to be able to watch and engage with people in a really human way. And I've seen an incredible amount of success over the years with just really good live stream content that you're then able to kind of take pieces of that are really great content and create it in either short form or sort of more tutorial style long form content.
Sure. Final question. What's the one piece of advice you would give to young or aspiring educational developer educators who want to get into this?
Your skills are transferable. If you're an educator in one thing, you can be an educator in anything.
Do they have to be developer centric?
Absolutely not. I think that you can always learn the development. Educators are incredibly well versed at learning things and helping people learn things. Use those skills, transfer them. And really, at the end of the day, whether it's developer education, science education, or any other kind of education, it's about helping people find their passion and figure out how to navigate that passion to have a job and have a really successful life. So, yeah.
It was lovely having you, Andrew. Thanks a lot for your time. See you next time. Bye.
So much.